Folks, we're here in the office of Mayor Earl Johnson, Mayor of City of Andalusia. Mayor, thank you so much for inviting us to come down and visit with you today. Wonderful opportunity to talk about some, I guess, hot topics that are going on out there right now.
Are there any hot topics?
Well, yes, sir. There's a few, but let's just go ahead and jump right in the middle of it.
All
right. Sir, you're advocating an increase in taxes in the city of Andalusia, and for most political people, that's usually a death sentence, or you become the Antichrist, or whatever. And can you tell us why you're advocating this?
I guess it proves I'm not a very good politician in that case.
That might be.
Well, yes, I'd be happy to discuss that with you in detail. Right now, the city of Andalusia has a 2% sales tax. The city portion of the sales tax is 2%. Now the state gets 4%, the county gets 2%, and then the city gets 2%. So that's a total of 8% total. But our portion, what we get to use to run this city with, is only 2%. The average sales tax in the state amongst municipalities that are like us, near us, around us, and quite frankly all over the state, there's only one that I know of that still only gets 2%. The average sales tax and municipal sales tax in Alabama is 3.5%. That's what we're proposing to move the city's sales tax to, 3.5%, which is a 1.5% increase. That means on a dollar purchase, it'd be a penny and a half increase cost to the consumer. Now, half of that penny and a half, or a third of it, we're going to direct that to our schools, to our education, Board of Education, our schools, and our children. And then the remaining penny, we're going to use initially to raise money to match this $8.6 million ATRIP grant that we have coming from the state of Alabama. Now, we've talked about this before in some detail. But we were successful about 2 months ago in being notified that Alabama DOT has awarded Andalusia $8.6 million of ATRIP money. That's the fourth largest grant in the state of Alabama, the entire state, for this round of ATRIP. Now, the problem with that is that only pays 80% of the cost of the project. So we've got to come up with a balance of 20% of the cost. So we're talking about a project that's about $10.5 million, and we get 8.6 or whatever. We're still coming up about $2 million that we've got to come up with to match for matching funds for the ATRIP. In addition to that, we have to pay all the engineering cost, and the engineering cost on a project this size is about $450,000 to $500,000. So that puts the city in a position to have to come up between $2.5 and $3 million of matching funds in order to get the 8.6 that we need to redo South 3 Knot Street in a fashion and in a way similar that we've done River Falls Street, and East 3 Knot Street, and Church Street. We all know how important South 3 Knot Street is in our community. It passes our hospital, all our medical community out there. It comes into the south side of our business district. It's one of the routes into our elementary school, and it empties out and takes traffic off of the bypass. It's a very important street. There is no way that the city of Andalusia could afford to do what we're doing without this ATRIP grant. So we either have to come up with that matching funds or we don't get the grant. And without the grant, there's no way possible for us to make those improvements to South 3 Knot Street. And that's the last main thoroughfare coming into the city that has not been completely rebuilt. So what are our options? Our options are, one is don't take the grant, okay? That would be one option. Just I can write to Governor and say, Governor, thanks, but no thanks. We'll turn down the $8.6 million. And I suspect I would be labeled the most incapable mayor in the United States if I did that, because every mayor in this state would like to have an opportunity to have that kind of grant money put in their community. The second thing we could do is we could go borrow the money, and we could do that. But then you've got to pay the money back with interest. So you still got to have some additional revenue coming in to address that money that you would have to borrow. And then the third thing, and this is the thing we hear all the time, pay as you go. So the other option is either turn the grant down, borrow the money, or raise some additional revenue. So we started looking at those three options, and we thought we picked the one that's the most responsible approach, and that is to raise our sales tax to that is the average sales tax in the state. We still would not be even close to the highest sales tax in the state. The highest sales tax in the state is 12%. People talk about Auburn and what a great place Auburn and Opelika and Tuscaloosa, towns like that. You know what the sales tax in Auburn and Opelika and Tuscaloosa is? 11%. Montgomery, just up the road, 10%. Enterprise, just east of us here, 9.5%. Exactly what we're talking about going to. Just 15 miles east of here, up 9%. South of us in Bruton, 9%. Mobile, I think, is 11% or 12. I forgot, 11 or 12. So if people will just stop and think, we're not asking our folks to pay an extravagant amount of tax, additional tax. We're asking just to pay what we think is the average. Now, out of that 1.5 cent increase, we're going to give a half of that to our school system. And the school system needs that money. Anybody that's been living in Alabama for the last 10 years knows what's happened to our school funding at the state level. Cut, slash, and burn. Cut, slash, and burn. Proration, now sequestration. Our school system simply does not have the money to operate as it should be operating and pay the expenses it has to do with upkeeping their facilities and providing materials for our children, providing the learning tools that they need. We have lost many programs at Andalusia High School, for example, like ROTC, like some of the programs having to do with the trades and diversified occupations. They don't call that anymore. That's what I remembered as when I was in high school. But those kinds of programs are important because there are many children, in fact, most of the children will not attend college, but they still need to be educated and prepared and trained to get out of school and make a good living in our community. So we need those training programs, and we need to put those programs back in our high school and raise the level of our education for our children. On the academic side, we need to put some programs back in that we're close to losing. For example, we lost the music program. We had folks standing on the rooftop screaming about that. One of my biggest critics, his mother, was all over the radio and the newspaper, and anybody else would stop for 5 minutes and listen to her about us losing the music program. To her credit, she donated some time to help keep that program going, and for that I've told her many times how thankful I am. But you can't keep programs like that going on volunteers. Right. It's just not the way it works. So we're talking about putting those programs that at one time had Andalusia High School on the highest levels of all the schools in the state of Alabama. Our children deserve at least what we had when we were growing up here as far as schools are concerned, and that's what we're talking about, is putting those programs back in, giving our school board this additional funding that they will need. Also, as you know, there are some new facilities being built. Right. They're short about $1.5 million on those facilities to complete that program. Part of that program is building a safe space at the high school that will house all the students in the high school, including the new 7th and 8th grade that will go over there, in time of inclement weather, like, for example, hit Enterprise and killed, I think, 8 students.
Yes, 8.
Now, so that is part of this project. We don't want to cut that out of the project. And in fact, we're getting $370,000 additional grant funds to put that into the project, but that doesn't pay everything. There's stuff over and above that we have to pay for. So part of the money that they will get on that half cent will go towards making up the difference to build those new facilities. Every dime that we're going to raise for our school board, we will sit down every year with our city council and the school board, and we will discuss how the money is going to be used this year. What programs is it going to support this year? So there will be direct input from the citizens and from the city council with the school board on how that money is going to be used. We're not just going to write them a check and say, y'all use it how you want to. There will be discussions about how it's going to be used, and we want to make certain that this money doesn't get substituted for other monies that go somewhere else. We want this money to be used to uplift the program and make it better than it is now, and bring it back to what it was many years ago when it was recognized as one of the top schools in the state. Still is a very, very good school. Great faculty, great student body, but we can make it better, and it's our job to do that as leaders. So my job as mayor and the council's job as council is to look at these issues, look at these, I call them opportunities, I don't call them problems. These are opportunities. How do we deal with those opportunities? I think the fair thing to do is to put a penny-and-a-half sales tax on, which not only will the citizens of Andalusia pay, but everybody that comes through here and shops with us and does business with it, people from all over the country that come through here. And they're not going to think a thing in the world about it, because when they go home, their sales tax is higher than it'll be here, I guarantee you, in most instances. Your wife, Teresa, is sitting across there looking at me, and I'd love to ask her, when is the last time, Teresa, you went into a store in Montgomery, or you went into a store in Pensacola, or a store in Fort Walton, or Enterprise, and said, now before I make this purchase, you tell me how much your sales tax is? People don't do that. Right. It's part of doing business. And if we were asking to raise our sales tax to a number like 11 or 12%, I would say, wait a minute now, that's on the high edge, on the high fringes. What we're talking about is putting our sales tax at exactly the midpoint, the average sales tax in this state. And I think when you're around average, when you're talking about charging for stuff, when you're around average, that's where you ought to be.
That's right. So
we'll start with that.
All right. Well, Mayor, a couple of things come to light in talking and hearing what you're saying. Half of this, or you said half of the tax, or a third of the tax is going to the school?
1/3.
1/3, okay, is going to the school system. And the other amounts basically for the road work that's being done with the the $8 million grant.
$8.6 million HRIP grant.
Grant. Now,
that's just for starters.
Right.
That's for the next couple of years. As we go forward, we've got other matching opportunities out there that we've already applied for, that we know that will be coming up, which there's probably another $1 million of matching that we'll have to do on about 3 other grants that one of which we've already been notified we're getting, and 2 others we think we're going to get, or we feel comfortable we're going to get. But it doesn't just end there. Out into the future, we've got needs as far as we can see in this city. For example, there are neighborhoods all over this city that do not qualify for grant money because of the way they're scored. We're not going to get grant money to make improvements on their streets, to do stormwater drainage, to do curb and gutter issues and sidewalks and things like that have to be addressed. In those communities, in those neighborhoods, we have to pay for all of that. So out in the future, we'll be using these revenues to address those kinds of infrastructure needs where we know we're not going to get some grant money. We also know, in addition to that grant money, as a general rule, is drying up. We all see what's happening in Washington, the sequestration, the cutting on all that money that's been coming down to us through the federal government, through ADECA, through the state, through DOT. In my opinion, in just a very few years will be dried up, which will put all of the shoulder of infrastructure improvement, or the weight back on the city's shoulders, because there won't be any grant money out there to get.
Okay, and I want to go where you're going with this, and we talk about the sequestration and all the stuff happening on the federal level and all the grants drying up. But let's turn the page a little bit. Let's go ahead and say we pass this 1.5 tax increase, and then we have the $8.6 million grant. We improve South 3 Notch.
Right.
All right. Will it not be a natural thing to happen that more tax dollars will be collected off of South Three Notch because of accessibility and
Sure.
businesses going there?
We hope.
So wouldn't that be an asset to have
Absolutely.
more taxes coming in?
Absolutely, no question about it. That's exactly why we're doing this, is first to benefit the hospital and the businesses and the medical profession, the medical community that's out there now, but also to make it more appealing to bring in new businesses. I guess one way to use that example, or to give an exhibit to that example is, we've been working on infrastructure in Andalusia now for about a dozen years, and we're seeing new businesses coming in. We've got a brand new restaurant coming in at the foot of River Falls Street. I will guarantee you, without any question, had we not made those improvements to River Falls Street, that new restaurant, Zaxby's, would not be locating in Andalusia, Alabama. I guarantee you that. There are 3 other restaurants that are opening in Andalusia, or have already opening, or are in the process of opening. And the reason they're opening is because of the traffic that's coming to Andalusia, because of the infrastructure improvements we've made, the other businesses that have come here, the retail that's here. Those businesses are being supported by those folks. None of that would be happening if we had not for the last dozen years been basically remaking our city.
Well, Mayor, we're going to take a quick commercial break here, and we're going to come back. But while we're going to commercial break, I'd like you to, we're talking about sequestration, what's going on with federal government, the grants. I remember years ago, we come in here and we'd sit down and talk to you, and it was a penny for penny match on, the grant money and how we were saving money back then. And that's kind of been strangulated, I guess, if that's a word, and over the years. And right now, with the current situation we have on the federal level, the state we talked to Mike Jones and Senator Hawley. There's just nothing there right now. It's bare bones, but they are coming back a little bit at a time. There's positive things coming out. Also, with that in mind, while we go to commercial break, big things are happening in Washington, D.C. And the internet has caused a lot of issues with taxes.
Right. And
with what you have going here, I can see where people are getting confused and getting taken back that, wait a minute, I can go here and do this and do that. No taxes here, but there's taxes there. Basically, the city of Andalusia has an infrastructure, if I'm going to call it that, of taxation in order to continue business as normal. And when you change that just a little bit, you got to make some changes to grow with it. It just don't happen by itself. Mayor, thanks a lot. We'll be right back with more. Keep it real, keep God in it. We'll be right back. Folks, welcome back to WKNI TV. We're here with Mayor Earl Johnson, Mayor of Andalusia. And Mayor, we were talking about the 1.5% sales tax. And again, I want to go over that real quickly. That's a penny and a half on the dollar increase.
That's right.
You've used some analogies of going out shopping elsewhere, and it's 10%, 12%.
Let me just go down the list for you.
Okay.
I'll just go down the list. And in Andalusia right now, it's 8%, and we're talking about going to 9.5%. Bruton, their sales tax is 9%. Enterprise, their tax is 8.5%. Greenville, 9.5%. Opp, 9%. Alabaster, 9%. Alexander City, 8.5%. Auburn, 11%. Bay Minette, 10%. Athens, 9%. Decatur, 10%. Fairhope, 9%. Foley, 9%. Gulf Shores, 10%. Huntsville, 9.5%. I could go on and on and on.
I didn't hear anybody at the same rate that we're at.
There's only one other. I've got 39 cities here. There's only one other city that's at the same rate that we are. But they happen to be Mountain Brook, Alabama. And their ad valorem tax is like 77 mills as compared to ours is like 15. So
they're doing it at different
They
ages.
raise their money based primarily on ad valorem tax and not sales tax. And if we could get an ad valorem tax passed in our city for our schools, and we tried to and it failed several years ago, we'd do that. But the people and that's fine. If the people want to, but you can't have the great schools. You can't have these other things unless you're willing to help pay for them and bring in other folks that'll help you pay for it. And that's what we're trying to do.
So, Mayor, basically what we're having here right now is a increase in taxes where you've already stated that part of it's for the school and part of it's for, the majority of it's for the investment of matching funds for South Three Notch. Now, question, do you have to have the constituents vote on this? Is this something?
No.
Can you tell us how this works?
It's a vote of the city council. Any municipality in the state has the authority to raise and lower their own sales tax.
Does it have to be approved by the state legislatures?
No.
Okay. I just want to get that out there because some questions have come up about that.
Now, ad valorem tax is different. You have
Right.
to have a vote on that. But sales tax, is historically, the legislature understands that municipalities have to have revenue, and each municipalities vary on what their revenue needs are.
Right.
Because they may have some source of money other than taxes that helps propel them where they want to be, whereas other communities, the only thing they have is tax revenue. So that gets real complicated, but primarily what we have available to us is sales tax revenue to provide us the revenue we need to run this city.
And that has been on a steady increase within the city.
It has, absolutely, on a steady increase since the year 2000.
Mayor, we talked briefly, and we will only talk briefly about it because there's not a whole lot you can do about it here on our level. But people are hearing about the internet tax that's coming up. We mentioned that before we went to break. And some folks are saying, well, geez, if that happens, then we'll get a part of that.
Yeah.
Now, I can see where they're right about that to a point. If that happens, which won't be anytime soon, as we discussed, because there's a lot of people that still have to approve this.
Well, let me go through that for you. As I understand it, it's passed the Senate, the U.S. Senate. I don't know if it's passed the House yet or not. We're trying to keep close tabs on that. The president then has to sign it, which I feel fairly certain he would do. All that does is authorize each state to put a tax on internet sales. You go on the internet and you buy something from whatever.
eBay, yeah.
Whatever, or more than that, some
Amazon.com.
Some of these companies, all they have is a big warehouse,
Right.
And you do an internet buy from them, and they put it on UPS or FedEx or whatever, and it's delivered in your house. Their expenses are related only to having to keep up a warehouse and folks to run the warehouse in their internet system. While as our local merchants, let's say Mike Ward, for example, he's what we call a local brick and mortar merchant. He's got a business he's got to keep up. He's got a building he has to keep up. He has employees he has to pay. He has to pay retail for his merchandise, bring it in, stock it, sell it, and so his expenses are more than somebody's just got a big warehouse somewhere where they're shipping stuff out on FedEx or whatever. So it's unfair, in my opinion, and quite frankly, they're supposed to collect that tax and submit it to the various municipalities and localities in the state, but they don't do it. So this legislation that's in Congress will authorize the states to implement their state tax and then their local taxes. But each state's legislature is going to have to act on that. So our session of the legislature is ending right now.
Right.
This week. So the earliest it could be taken up is next year this time, before that legislation could even be taken up at the state level. Then it has to be taken up at the local level. Then it has to be implemented and all the stuff put in place to make that work. I think we would be lucky, we would be fortunate if we see any revenue coming off internet sales within 5 years.
Well, and that's truthful. That's being very, in your case, optimistic, I would think as well.
Listen, I would love to think that we're going to see sales tax coming in off internet sales within 5 years.
Well, the good thing about that happening, so people can understand, is then the businesses. I talked to an op business here just the other day. We were covering an event over an op, and Mr. Dyes from Dyes Music and I were talking about this. And I want people to understand how this works, because I want people to know that you need to buy local.
Right.
Okay? We need to support the local communities. But he says, Eddie, if somebody goes out and buys something on the internet for $5,000-6,000 in equipment, and they don't have to pay $300 or $400 in taxes, where are you going to go buy it? And they do, and it puts the little brick and mortar businesses in a very bad situation.
They're at a competitive disadvantage,
and there's nothing they can do.
And you know, that's sad, but it doesn't matter at what level our sales tax is locally, because it's zero with them.
Exactly.
So that, you know,
that's the point I was
yeah.
headed to. It's 0%
Right.
there. The cities, the state, nobody's gaining from it, so it's a total loss every time.
Right.
So in order to protect the communities that we live in, we need to shop locally and make sure that money comes right back in.
Well, in that, excuse me if I interrupt,
go ahead.
but part of what we're going to do with this additional revenue that we're going to get from our 1 cent increase that comes to the city, we're going to develop a shop at home program. We're going to promote our local businesses, and we're going to try to develop a plan with some professionals to help us keep folks at home and bring other folks into Andalusia to shop. People who've been going to Enterprise or been going to Crestview or been going to Montgomery, stay at home and shop, and we're going to try to develop that program for them. We're also going to look at some other things that we can do for our local retail merchants to help them be more competitive. And that's part of what we're going to do with this additional revenue.
And again, South Three Notch is going to be a huge shot in the arm, because people will be building businesses out there just like they're doing on River Falls.
Well, not only that, you're going to have over $10.5 million or so of construction work going on out there, and that's going to be paying people to drive tractors. It's paying people to put down concrete. It's paying people to hook up lights. I mean, it's going to be paying a bunch of salaries and wages throughout this year and a half that it's in process. So it's going to be pumping some $12 million or so into our economy, just the project itself.
Well, Mayor, again, we're going to take another quick break, and we're going to come back. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to see what your answer is when we come back.
All right.
Thanks for watching. We'll be right back after this, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Keep it real. Keep God in it. Folks, welcome back once again to WKNI TV 25. We're here with Mayor Earl Johnson, City of Andalusia. Mayor, a lot of folks don't understand what's happening, okay? And there's some confusion going on out there. What would you take the average citizen and explain this to them in a nutshell?
Well, it's hard to do complex and complicated issues in a nutshell, and I realize that, but that's what people want to hear.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, I would say it is this. We have an opportunity to move our city to the next level. And when I say next level, I mean a level of competitiveness with other cities that we thought we'd never be able to compete with for jobs and for businesses, for opportunities. We have an opportunity to move our education system back to where it was once before, and even better. Do we take that opportunity, or do we walk away from it? It's just that simple. We have the opportunity to get almost $10 million in grant funds paid into this city to help us improve our infrastructure, some of which was built over 100 years ago. Do we take that opportunity, or do we walk away from it and we'll never see another grant like that in our lifetime? It's just that simple. We had an election about this about 9 months ago. My stand at that time was, we've made a lot of progress in Andalusia in the last 12 years. We don't need to stop now. We're just on the verge of where we can get. I mentioned in an earlier segment, we got 4 new restaurants opening in Andalusia, Alabama right now. We've got new retail merchants coming to town, and more on the way. It used to be I had to call and beg people to talk to me about coming to Andalusia or consider bringing a business here. Now they're calling me. But we've got to continue that. We can't rest on our laurels. We can't be self-satisfied. We can't be scared and go under a rock. We've got to continue to move forward. And if I were asking the citizens to do something unreasonable, I would understand the clamor and the exclamation in their voices. But what I'm asking them to do is what the average citizen in the state of Alabama does in paying sales tax, just the average. And I don't think that's unfair, especially considering what we've done with the tax dollars in my previous terms in office. I think everyone will agree. We take $1, and I've said this over and over again, we take $1 tax money and get $3 or $4, $5 worth of value out of it. We're going to continue to do that. But we are up against it right now as far as raising the money to meet the needs for this grant. And we either do it or we walk away from it and just be satisfied with where we are and forget about the improvements to our community and forget about our school system and let them do the best they can and not worry about it. And life would be a lot easier on me to do that. I could sit down here and go to ribbon cuttings and things when we had them, if we had them, and go to meetings and be the mayor and have a nice time. My job, however, is not to do that. My job, as I see it, and the council's job, as they see it, is to try to lead this community into the future. It's our job to look down the road 10 years, 15 years, even 20 years, not next week, but out there in the future. What do we need to do to get from here to there? And that's what we're trying to do with this.
And a lot of the effort's gone into the infrastructures, as we've talked about many times with you in the past. You mentioned over 100 years old and something when they pull these things up down River Falls Street, things that you were just surprised that even were there. Damage from other things as well, and things just improve all the way when we do something like that.
Well, you've got to continually maintain your facilities. It's just like somebody that owns a home or a business. There's maintenance issues with that all the time, and sometimes stuff wears out and you have to replace it. It's the same thing with the city. Streets wear out, sewers wear out, sidewalks, curbs, gutters wear out. They get broken and torn up. If you don't respond to those things, in just a few years you look around and you realize, oh my goodness, where are we now? How are we going to address this? And we've got so far behind. And quite frankly, that's the position we were in about 12 years ago. We had gotten ourselves in a position that we were far behind. We worked very hard to get where we are now, but we're not where we need to be yet. We've still got some steps to take.
All right, we're looking at 5 years down the future. You told us what it would be with the way things are that are hunky-dory and going the way things are planned out. We don't put this 1.5% sales tax in. We lose the $8.6 million grant. Where would that leave us?
It would leave us sitting still. It will leave us falling behind. It will leave us becoming like many other small cities in the South, in the nation for that matter, that get self-satisfied or say, well, we don't want to make this sacrifice and move forward. And you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. It's not. You don't stay the same. You have to work hard just
right.
to maintain. We were just named recently as the 44th best small city in the United States to live. That's an incredible accomplishment considering where we've been.
Right.
An incredible accomplishment. And the #1 city in Alabama. We just received 2 statewide quality of life awards for maintaining and reconditioning old structures like this building we're in right here. All that's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of dedication, it's a lot of imagination, and if we hadn't done that, where would we be? We wouldn't have a Vector Aerospace. We wouldn't have a call center at the airport. We wouldn't have DRS. While they don't have a lot of employees out there right now, they are paying $50,000 a month rent to us on those facilities. And they will eventually have a contract and they will have some employees. We wouldn't have 4 new restaurants opening in Andalusia at the same time. I could just go on and on and on. And I'll be willing to go on any media with anybody, anywhere, anytime, and discuss this with them in a mature, professional manner, a respectful manner. I'll be glad to do it with any media outlet in this city, are in this state. In fact, I just came from Dothan this morning where I appeared on WTVY. Later this afternoon, I'm going to be on WSFA. I'm with you right now. I talked to the newspaper. I will talk to them again, and I will talk to anybody else who is a legitimate media outlet anytime, anywhere to discuss these issues, because that's the way you get the word out to the people. And all I would say is if someone is in the media business and they don't take advantage of this opportunity and don't really want to get the truth out, then that's their problem, not mine. So I solicit all the media outlets in South Alabama. Call me, let me know. I'll be there in the morning. I'll be there tomorrow night. I'll be there next week, whenever you want to talk to me. But, you know, I got to know when you want me.
This leads me to another question. Are you getting a fair shake from the local media?
Well, I don't know. I guess that's for the public to determine whether or not I'm getting a fair shake. What I would say is that if someone in the media is not talking to me and asking me questions, how do they know what the facts are? Are they just picking them up off the street? Or are they just reading them out of the newspaper? Are they getting them off somebody else's program? Where are they getting it from? If they want to know what the mayor's thinking, they need to come talk to the mayor or have the mayor on their program, which I have offered to do and will do and be happy to do that.
Social media's got some very good things about it and some pretty messed up things about it. And we see that this is being discussed rapidly on a couple of social pages. And but I've yet to see you address this on the social page.
Well, social media to me is like people standing across the back fence talking to each other. I mean, I don't mean to sound trying to sound uppity. I just don't have the time to sit and answer questions on social pages. I'm busy running this city and promoting this city and trying to rate and make a living for my family and all the other things I do. And I just simply don't have the time to do that. Now, I'm not saying that's not a legitimate way to communicate. That's fine if people have time to do it. I just don't have the time to do it.
Mayor, talking about communication with people, how do they find out if they want to talk to you or if they want to individually find out information? Are they not able to access the city?
I've got a telephone. I've got a telephone in my office. I have a cell phone. All those numbers are open to the public. They can call me anytime they want to, as long as it's reasonable. Don't call me up at midnight. I want to talk about tax issues, but I'd be happy to discuss it with anybody, anywhere, anytime.
So making it available to all the media as well as the general public.
Absolutely.
222-3313.
That's it.
And they can get you and ask for the mayor, and Miss Kimberly or somebody out there will answer. And
if I'm not here, I guarantee you I will return your call.
Well, Mayor, I want to let our viewers also know that every time we have called to contact you and communicate with you, you've returned every single phone call. You have come on every time we've asked you to appear on WKNI TV 25, and we want to thank you for that, and I'm sure our viewers appreciate that as well.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to appear on your television station. Again, it's a way to get the truth out, not a bunch of gossip. It's the truth. It's the facts. And you and I don't sit down and discuss what you're going to ask me. We sit down, you start asking questions, and I start answering them. And that's fine with me.
And you correct me on my improper English.
Well, so I probably need some correcting myself.
You've done well, sir, and we appreciate you, and we thank you for your valuable time. And I know you've got other media awaiting you now to talk with you on these matters. And again, anytime, WKNI TV 25 is there for you.
Thank you.